So she said yes.
And the sound of an organ is on the horizon.
But will Chelsea really love, honour and obey?
Or is Till Death Do Us Part coming sooner than she thinks?
I'm Alex.
I'm Rob.
And this is the Walford Weekly Podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Walford Weekly Podcast, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 1st to Friday the 5th of November. And we cannot go ahead without him. A pinch and a punch for the first day of the month. Hello Rob, how are you? What are you doing? How are things?
Hello Alex, hello everybody, how are you this week? Pinch and punch first day of the month. It's way past the first of the month. Is this a Scottish thing that you say that rhyme when it's further into the month and the rest of the world? Is Scottish calendar different?
Yes, they're much more upside down. No, it's just because the first episode's from the first. I thought. It would be
I
nice
see.
Do you want me to next time do it when the episode's actually out on the first?
I mean, that's the normal procedure. But you do you, Alex. Who am I to criticise?
But unfortunately, it's fireworks night this week. Again, no reference whatsoever about it on
None.
EastEnders. I felt a bit sad. I thought they could have done at least one rocket going into the air, like what Coronation Street did this week.
You know why? It's because they used all of their fireworks budget on the proposal episode between Ballum. And they had no more money for any firework effects, any actual fireworks, because they used the entire of London's supply. The entire firework arsenal for that episode. So unfortunately, we're a bit screwed till New Year's now. But I'm sure we'll get fireworks again soon.
That's a shame. They needed the event organiser, Lexi Hat, coming in. She could have come in, bought £500 worth of explosives. That's what kids do nowadays on Walford.
All the time.
It's such a shame, isn't it? It's such a shame. But it's funny you should mention weddings, Rob, because do you know what we have coming up right now?
What do we have? What?
We're going to delve deep into Beale Suitcase. And for this week, we're going to look at the 1st of November 2007. And some people might know the date as Bradley and Stacey's wedding day. And what an eventful day it was. So many secrets, so many people running around the square trying to stop Sean from telling Tanya the truth about Max and Stacey. And Stacey wasn't very sure either whether she wanted to get married to Bradley. And Bradley wasn't too sure if he wanted to get married to Stacey. It was a wonderful episode. Did you have a chance to watch it, Rob?
I did. I watched it last night. It was an hour-long episode. It's been a while since we've had one of them, isn't it? There was a lot of things going on that you kind of forget that ever happened on TV. Like lots of people being in a room close together and people touching and kissing, and the fact that it was an hour-long episode. I feel like I can't even remember the last time we had an hour-long. Was it New Year? Probably. I don't think we've had one at all this year, have we? Apart from that, quite an episode. Now the whole thing about this episode actually is that obviously you've got the whole story and the drama of will Stacey make it down the aisle? Halfway through the vows, she kind of runs off crying because the whole thing about her and Max is threatening to make it out in the open because Sean has overheard a conversation between her and Max outside the previous night, now knows. And because he's got a thing for Tanya, he's sort of trying to use that to his advantage and is sort of trying to ruin the wedding and all that kind of typical Sean malarkey. And the big thing about this episode, though, is that it starts to set into motion one of EastEnders' most famous ever moments in recent years, because Lauren has the job of filming the wedding, and for some strange reason, she decides to kind of set up the camera. Maybe she's watching Big Brother or something, I don't know. But she sort of sets up the camera in the room where Stacey was getting changed, and then completely forgets about it until she gets to the wedding. It's like, oh God, I've forgotten the camera. But that camera is recording everything that goes on in the room that Stacey was getting ready in. And then after the wedding, after everything's happened, and Stacey and Bradley are off to their honeymoon, this video camera is still recording, and Stacey's getting changed, ready to go away, and Max joins her in the room, and they have their last kiss well, last for a few years anyway. But they have that last kiss that is caught on camera, and where does that camera footage end up in a few months' time? On the video that is played to the entire Branning family on Christmas Day 2007. This was the setup for it. I'd completely forgotten how that all happened, in all honesty. I have to say, Lauren went through some pretty nifty video editing, because that's a long scene in that bedroom. I didn't realise it was quite that long. It's very long. But all that footage gets disappeared until it's just nailed down to the kiss.
Just that bit there.
Yeah.
And also that video battery must have been insane.
Oh, so good.
Like that lasted the whole day.
Phone batteries don't last that long.
No, I know. And I imagine setting that up, putting that in the cloud, there'd be no space for anything else. I mean, as you say, that's what made it such a big build-up for the Christmas special. I mean, I made a video where I reacted to the Christmas episode, and if you are watching us on YouTube, there's a little link popped up at the top of the screen right now if you want to watch it. But
I bet there isn't.
Oh my goodness. I mean, there's a few things that kind of popped out for me. The fact that Sean had read Stacey's text messages and realised that Tom and Jerry was the code for Max and Stacey for them to have their secret rendezvous. I know, Tom and Jerry. And Abby Branning being there, running around, talking about what she's going to do on her wedding day.
Little Abby.
I know, it was so lovely seeing Abby there. She was... No, she did. Well, she did dress up in a wedding dress, didn't she? Because she wore her sister's wedding dress when Laura was meant to marry Stephen later on, which was a bit weird. No, didn't she have that cardboard cutout of a man? Because she had that
something like that. Yeah,
that's for another loose suitcase.
Wasted.
But I did love that Abby was running around the square, lifting up Stacey's dress, going, "I'm the bridesmaid."
Yeah,
telling
so
anyone who'd listen, and everyone kind of. I know. It was so lovely seeing Abby back on the show. And it was weird, actually, because I remember Lauren being obviously quite a cantankerous kind of character. But, I always remembered her when she was a little bit later on being worse. But she's actually really horrible.
It's not nice.
Kind of
Wasn't a nice child. Really. This is pre Jacqueline Josser. This is Lauren 1. And her and Abby had a bit of a cantankerous relationship back in those days. Nothing compared to what they turned into later on in the years, but as sisters, they were sort of kind of constantly fighting and bickering as young kids do. But also I noticed that was the first time we ever saw Lauren drink, maybe as well. She started trying to neck some of the champagne, and Abby's like, "Well, I'm going to tell on you," and Laura's like, "Well, I'm going to execute your rabbit." So typical sisterly type things, But yeah, what an episode! And yeah, so it totally sets up the one of the most famous moments that everybody remembers. Everybody's watched that episode. Everybody has, even if you don't watch EastEnders. Everybody knows where that video footage ends up, and the classic shots of all the characters sort of reacting to this really, really well edited How much editing must Lauren have had to have done to get it onto that tape in the way that it is? Because also what you've got to bear in mind is not only is there the really long conversation that she's got to edit around before she actually gets around to the kiss, but there's an entire 6 hours of nothing. Absolutely, the patience you must have had to have sat through it. There was nothing happening. Oh, there's Stacey. Oh, where's Dad? Oh my God! And then also the video camera ends up going with Stacey and Bradley on their holiday, and that doesn't get discussed. I can't remember quite what happens with the adventures of the video camera and how it ends up back in Lauren's hands. I can't remember how all of that plays out, but it does end up going on honeymoon with the. With Stacey and Bradley. Still recording, mind, as well. No battery issues whatsoever. It's still quite happily chugging away. No. Just, look, I'm in a taxi now. Yeah, I'll keep recording. Anything could happen in this taxi. I'll just keep recording. Great. Where's the technology like that these days? They should stick the battery that they had in that camera in iPhones these days. That's what I say. So there we are.
They make them too small. Let's make the iPhone the size of a 2007 digital camera, and then you'll be fine.
Yes.
Things will work out fine. But yes, absolutely wonderful episode. If anyone gets a chance to see at least a clips of it, it's great to watch. And as you say, it's lovely to see it as the build up to the 2007 Christmas episode, which was fantastic. Oh my God, I think we're going wedding mad this week, Rob, because not only have we just talked about that wedding, but we have another wedding to look forward to. So you better dust off your hat, because we have Chelsea and Gray's wedding to look forward to, because this week Gray's father had died. Chelsea had gone to the funeral with him, saw a different side to Gray, and Gray kind of proposed to her, at first turned down by Chelsea, but Chelsea then accepted it after she had a near miss with a miscarriage of her child when she slipped and fell. Interestingly, when Whitney heard about Chelsea's slip, her first reaction was, hang on, has Gray been up to some kind of shenanigans? Which is interesting. This is the first time where we first saw a reaction from Whitney in this kind of way. So, yeah, how do you feel about this wedding day coming up between Chelsea and Gray? And do you think this is
a bit of a U-turn, isn't it? Bless her. She hated him 2 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden she's realised what a lovely man she is. And she's forgotten all of that stuff that she saw with him losing his temper. She was the first to see it. I think even Whitney saw it first. Chelsea was the first to see it, and that's why Chelsea was warning Whitney off. But she's forgotten about all of that because of this near miss. I have to say, I genuinely thought that she was going to lose the baby. I thought that was where I thought that was where it was going. But she's fine. She hasn't lost the baby, and now Gray has proposed. At first, Chelsea laughs in her face. Laughs in his face, which I can't blame her. To be honest, you would do. But then quickly changes their mind. Once the pair of them get to the hospital, and she's been scanned and everything's fine and they're on the way home, Gray gets chatted up by a nurse who uses probably the best chat-up line I've ever heard in my life. Your name's Gray, isn't it? Like the colour. What a slag, honestly. Have you ever heard? What a hussy.
I know. She's tried it with anyone.
The Chelsea's like, well, that's very unprofessional. Absolutely unprofessional. I've never done anything like this before, but you're like the colour, so here's my number. And kind of runs away giggling. Yeah, so Chelsea and Gray on the horizon. Now, we've seen, obviously, that a wedding is going to take place over the coming months. I mean, where do you think it's going? Is it going to be a wedding and a funeral, or is how long before Chelsea starts? Because this is the thing. It's not like Gray hasn't got experience on how to work around a pregnant woman if he needs to hit her, is it? He knows where, like, the marks are to sort of avoid the baby. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, where does it go from here? How long before Chelsea realises what an awful mistake she's made?
Yeah, Chelsea is carrying precious cargo, so I think
yes.
because Gray was very reserved with when Chelsea laughed at him. I really expected there to be a moment where the camera came in and you saw a red light come over his face, and you saw him kind of like that. But he didn't. He kind of calmly just said, "Go away. You've annoyed me. Go away." So it was like a very considered Gray this week when he was around Chelsea. So I think he does see that Chelsea is quite important, at least with his child. And there was a lot of talk this week as well about him being a really good father, which I found a little bit surprising.
I mean, he's never hit the kids.
Based on what exactly?
He's never thrown a kid onto a dishwasher.
He did try to burn the house down with the kids inside it.
That's true.
Luckily, Shirley did spot it. So,
yeah, that's true.
Give it a take, the yin with the yang.
We all make mistakes.
But you're right. You're quite right. He hasn't abused the children, and he has shouted at the children as well. So I kind of thought that kind of was a bit of a turn, but still. Yes. Karen's incredibly jealous as well, isn't she? Because Karen's kind of bit upset because I think she wanted him to get together with Whitney because she saw Whitney as a more stable relationship for Gray. But then when she found out Chelsea was pregnant with Gray's child, again, she started to care for Chelsea a little bit more now as well, which made me think that maybe Chelsea kind of likes the attention that she's getting, and that's why she accepted the wedding proposal from Gray more than anything else. Because I know she did say about the money, but we know, us viewers, we know that Gray doesn't have a lot of money at the moment. He's still working at that burger bar on potentially minimum wage. So
definitely minimum wage.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's really interesting that Chelsea and Gray, we know something's happening in the new year or Christmas or New Year with them. So we've got potentially 2 months now worth of stories stretching out between them. Is Whitney going to get involved again, do you think? Do you think Whitney's going to start kind of trying to or Gray's going to make a relationship with Whitney as well behind Chelsea's back? And Chelsea finds out?
I'm trying to work out.
Road?
I'm trying to work out because both Chelsea and Whitney have had a moment with Gray where they're sort of like, "Oh, that's what you're really like, is it? Right, see you later then." And they both walked out. Now, what I'm trying to work out is who had the worst moment between the two of them, because obviously we saw when he was having his thing as Whitney that he was sort of gripping a knife and sort of looking like he was going to stab her. I don't think Whitney actually saw that. I think she was just aware of how he was speaking to her and then sort of stormed out. And he also has the sort of the benefit. Whack the mic. I did it again. Sort of has the benefit of oh, my dad had just died. I was emotional. I'm sorry. I was angry. And there is an argument where you can sort of say, all right, fine. Your dad, you're upset. You've just lost a parent. I understand. All right, I accept your apology. Fine. You're not normally like that. Whereas with Chelsea, it's a bit different because he was proper angry with her that day. To the point where Chelsea went, "Oh, you've got quite the temper, haven't you?" Almost knowingly. So I think there might be a moment where her and Whitney, because they've never had the conversation about the fact that they've both had that moment. So I wonder if that is coming.
No.
They're going to have that moment of, well, this happened that time. Oh, well, I remember when this happened. And they start to maybe put the pieces together. I feel like Chelsea and Whitney might start to work together in the coming months and sort of realise exactly what's going on. Quite how all of Grey's crimes are going to kind of come to a light, I still don't know. It's not like there's... considering there's no CCTV evidence or anything, there's no sort of pieces for them to put together in terms of the murders. There's no way that they could work out that that Grey killed, Kush or Tina. Chelsea,
or Tina.
Chantel, they could possibly maybe, work out, oh, I see, this is what you're like, oh my god, I bet you killed Chantel, oh, that sort of thing that soap characters do where they work out a huge amount of detail with very little evidence. But yeah, it's a bit of a nerve-wracking time now for Chelsea because it's kind of like, is this baby going to make it? Is she going to get all the way to her 9 months whilst pregnant? Is Grey still going to be here in 9 months? Quite a long time, isn't it? 9 months, where are we? So in November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. We're talking about summer. Yeah, the summer. So is Grey still going to be here in the summer to see this baby being born? Or is Chelsea going to have had some unfortunate encounter with him where she loses the baby? Or
Grey doesn't necessarily have to be on screen the whole time. Grey could kind of disappear for a little while. I've said this before. He could disappear for a little while and then come back. Maybe when Chelsea's giving birth. That's a potential story down the road. There's a lot of people who are now getting on the Grey is bad bus, as it were. And that's now it was Chelsea, Whitney. I think Karen's got a bit of an inkling. There's... Kush, Suki kind of does as well, Mitch. So they are starting to build up a little bit.
Yeah.
No. But I'm wondering if we're in store, because we talked about for a little while about a two-hander and we haven't had one for a while. What about Whitney and Chelsea two-hander? Wouldn't that be an interesting kind of...
I'm always open to a
two-hander. They could be both talking about Grey.
Yeah, I'm always open. Oh, that would be a great episode, can you imagine? Like the two women that kind of have a thing for him, because I don't think Whitney could even deny that she still has feelings for Grey. I don't think that's quite gone away yet. And it would be great if she... I'd love that. And that whole episode with the two of them slowly coming to this realisation, and then maybe even Grey coming in at the end or halfway through and maybe turning it into a three-hander. So that's what we'd do. I doubt we're going to get that in these little 20-minute episodes. There's not quite much point, is there?
No, I wouldn't want Grey involved, though. I'd rather it just kept with Whitney and Chelsea. I'm finding the interesting part of this story, for me, the kind of the unfolding of the envelope between Whitney and Chelsea, and that the information they seem to be gathering between them. That's for this story, for better or for worse, the part that I'm enjoying is actually the female leads in it, which is the Whitney and Chelsea. But
I agree.
Maybe I'll be just disillusioned by Grey a bit too long.
We'll see how it goes.
Yes, we will. Talking of babies, gosh, we're just linking from one thing to the next. Obviously, last week, a baby got left on the doorstep of Sharon's. The question still ruminates in my mind of how did this person know where Sharon lives? And what makes me think this way even more is that Zack's kind of thinking it's his baby, because obviously a lot of people are kind of saying you played around a little bit. And now Martin's saying it could be his baby. And again, if it was his baby, how do they know that's where Martin's living now? Because he was living with Ruby beforehand. And
that makes no sense.
Have they been I know. Has there been like a private investigator, kind of watching into this little family unit of Zack, Martin, and Sharon?
This is what I mean. This is why it sort of leads you back to the conversation that we had about the storyline a couple of last week or the week before, where we're sort of wondering, is it anything to do with either of them, and is it more to do with Sharon? But then even then, I don't quite know how whoever left this baby on the doorstep would know even where Sharon had been living. It's all very odd. But Martin seems to have got it into his head this week that he went through a bit of an era, shall we say, where he was sleeping around a little bit. He tells Sonia that, and she's like, "Well, cheers."
Well, it was his Dark Martin era.
Dark Martin phase, and apparently Dark Martin was also Horny Martin. Yeah. So Horny Martin was sleeping around all over the place,
playing away, Martin.
And has managed to, in his mind, clearly has managed to impregnate this woman. How many people do you have to sleep with when you realise, I don't know who the mother is. It could be anybody. It could be absolutely anybody in the whole of East London. I have no idea who it could be. Even Martin at his most promiscuous, I don't think could compete with Zack's promiscuity. It doesn't seem likely that Martin would have absolutely zero idea about who this baby's mum could be.
He was in a really dark phase though. If you remember those stories, it got mad fast, didn't it? But no, the stuff he was doing when he was Dark Martin or Horny Martin,
I know.
if you like.
Apparently,
it's he could. I mean, it was a completely different character, wasn't it? For about almost a year. So I can I know what you're saying. I can kind of see how it could happen. It's just the fact that he kind of if he thinks that this is his child and he slept with lots of different women, and he admitted it as well to Sonia, which made me laugh as well. And Sonia was a bit like,
thanks.
Fine. Okay, thanks
Cheers,
for
mate.
that. Yeah, that really makes me feel great. Yeah.
Didn't they do it on a sofa or something when they kind of fell back into each other's arms? I'm sure they did it on a really classy place like the sofa or the table or something so romantic. So I don't really know what Sonia's got to complain about. It wasn't exactly violin music and Whitney Houston playing in the background, was it? It was a cheap lay, Sonia. Come on.
No.
So Martin's now got it into his head that this baby is his, so he's ordered another DNA test. Fair play, he's said to Zack, straight from the offset, I feel this child might be mine. Yeah. Neither of them having the conversation of who this mother could be to find out. They're not bothering with that anymore. They've just decided, right, okay, fine, Alicia is here. Is it Alicia? Alicia is here in our lives, and we're going to look after her, and she's not a fan of porridge, so that's absolutely fine. So, I mean, who do you think? Who do you think the daddy is? Who do you think the mummy is? Do you think we're going to find out who the mummy is? Do you think that there's maybe a bit of a twist coming where the mummy is someone we know? Or do you reckon it's just about the paternity?
I'd be honest with you, I'm leaning very firmly toward what a lot of theories are, especially since they released photos and some footage of the actress who's playing the mother of Alicia. She's a very young girl. And, I mean... I shall say spoiler. It's not a confirmed spoiler, but just in case people don't want to know, maybe just switch off for 30 seconds. But there is a lot of people, and we kind of hinted at it last week ourselves, that perhaps it's Denny's child before he unfortunately met his demise on the Thames. So I'm very, very, very convinced that it is going to be that. Which not only is it weird because Denny was very, very young, but not unheard of for something like that to happen. But it's also because Sharon's now got technically 2 children that she's now the guardian or parent to. From having no children a year ago to now having 2 children. I mean, this clearly is kind of maybe a ploy to, it's almost, I feel sorry for Sharon more than anything else because she's got her gym, which apparently is doing quite successfully. I mean, she's definitely going to need help from Zack. I mean, Zack wanted to show responsibility toward the child and wanted to show to be a father to it. So I think it would be his niece. Yeah. So I don't think that Sharon would turn him down for him to take up, parenting duties.
No,
to be perfectly honest. But that's for me. That's how the route is going to take. Do you think it's a bit more black and white? It's going to be either Martin.
I mean, no, I'm sure that there's no smoke without fire sometimes with these theories, is there? So it may well be heading in that direction. It just feels odd. I mean, this kid doesn't look. She's at least 1, isn't she? If not close to 2 in terms of I
think she is over 1.
Yeah, so that would make Denny so young. Because Denny was 14 when he died, which would mean that he was no older than 13 when this happened. Which, I don't know. I mean, like we say, it does happen, of course. And if the mother is, especially young herself, kids make stupid mistakes. So it's you know what, I shudder at the thought of it, but it is a perfectly legitimate sort of move that it does happen. And Denny wasn't the brightest tool in the box, was he? So you can totally imagine that he would do something as stupid as that, and then all of a sudden find himself in this situation. I don't know. I mean, if anything, it does kind of show that clearly Sharon's offspring were always meant to be there. was it the best idea really to get rid of Denny in the respect that if you've now got Sharon not only having a baby, you've also got him having the baby's offspring as well, so you've made her a mother and a grandmother since you've since you've killed Denny off. It's sort of like, did you get everything you wanted out of that, really? But, you know.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. It feels a bit like, to me. But you saying, sorry, to pick a bit icky. For Dennis though, there was never a hint for me of him kind of wanting a girlfriend or like kind of being interested in girls. Not when he was on screen. No. I don't remember that. Or I remember him being a bit cheeky. He slapped his mum every now and then, and he was being bullied, and he kind of I just didn't see this in Dennis's character for it to then carry forward now. But hey ho.
Hey, it's what we got. But I'm enjoying.
Denny. We got. Yeah.
Well, what I am enjoying, I bet she calls him Denny the third. What I am enjoying. Oh no, she can't. So it'd be Denise maybe. And we've already got Denise, Dennis. You know, it's just,
you have a female Dennis, couldn't you? I think Dennis could be a female name, couldn't it?
Denny is a Denny.
Although the child's already got a name, Alicia.
Oh, Sharon won't care about that. Sharon won't care about that. She's already changed the name of the kid that she already had. To be fair. Yeah, frankly, I don't blame her.
Yeah, she did.
What was it called? What was it called? It was something beginning with K, wasn't it? Caden, I think. Caden Mitchell. No.
Kane.
Anyway,
so Kane. Or Canaan,
Kane,
yeah.
Was it? Yeah, Canaan. Yeah. Anyway, so what I am enjoying is sort of Zack's involvement in this story. I quite like the fact that he's sort of trying to step up to the plate whilst realising that he's really bad at putting nappies on. Sort of going to Sharon, going, I don't know what to do. Please close the gym. I need help. Which is completely what I'd be like. I'm relatable. I wouldn't have a clue if I was thrown into a situation. I mean, admittedly, it's increasingly unlikely that I'm ever going to be thrown into that situation. But I relate to that sort of kind of like, I don't know how to deal with this insane situation that I've suddenly found myself in. I think I'm going to feel so sorry for Zack because increasingly it's looking like it's definitely not his kid. So I feel a bit sorry for him because you can see that he's actually trying to really bond with his kid and he's actually sort of grown quite fond of her and quite attached to her. So that's going to be quite sad to see. How long Martin thinks that he's the father before remains to be seen. They've surely thrown that in for a reason.
I think just to stretch it out for another week. That's all.
Do you think it is? Do you think that's all it is? It feels like a bit of a random red herring because I wasn't expecting that at all.
So just box the story out.
I don't know. It seems like a little bit of a.
Again, you saying you don't expect it. It's because you don't expect someone to leave a child on the doorstep of a random house with the knowledge of knowing that it could be like the person, but it could be the person's. It's Sharon's house.
Yeah,
I still can't figure out how they would have known. Because also, if it was a teenage girl. So we've still got the story also of why the girl had left the baby. Do the parents know she's left the baby? Is she in some kind of hostel or something? So she's living on her own. Maybe she got turfed out of the house because she ended up being pregnant as a teenager. See, that's a bit more interesting. That's the kind of story I want to hear about. I want to learn more about Alicia's mum. I want to know what's caused her to do this. What made her to take this leap and leave a child randomly outside of a house to
in the middle of November,
practically anyone.
Cold.
In the middle of November, one of the coldest months as well. Yes. Liam's in the habit of stealing cars at the moment. I wouldn't put past him to steal a baby, especially if Janine had anything to do
with
it.
I'll have that. Sick.
Hey! Starts running around the square like he did with the
running around like madly. Holding this kid by the basket, yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it past him.
No.
Talking about secret children.
Oh, the links this episode, brilliant.
I mean, comment below if you're enjoying the links. Vi had all of her possessions put out for sale by Billy. Billy wasn't aware that these were all Vi's stuff, but Jono had thrown Vi out. And she had some very precious heirlooms in there. But the most precious was a book where there was a photograph inside, and the photograph showed that Vi was pregnant. Patrick spotted the photo, visited Vi, and had a conversation about it, and we found out that Vi had a child when she was in her 50s.
I'm just absolutely thrilled and delighted that they've finally given Gwen Taylor something to do, something to stick her teeth into, something a little bit emotional, something, and it sounds like it could be a little bit emotional further down the line, to be fair. So basically, the whole idea of the story is that Vi, when she was 51 and pregnant, I love the fact that why did she put that picture in that book? just a picture of her pregnant. Nothing more, nothing less, just Vi in her 50s, massively pregnant, holding the belly and kind of looking at the camera, kind of like, what will I do? That it's just been randomly put into this book. But, moving on. But aside from that, it's just nice that she's got this story because apparently she gave birth to a kid with, well, presumably with Down syndrome that she didn't know how to look after, so she gave the kid away. Now, Vi is in her 80s, I believe, so we're talking a good 30 years plus. Yeah, my maths is abysmal. We're talking like a good 30 plus years since this child was born. So Christopher, maybe at some point, is going to come along. Is she going to start looking for him? But I'm just so pleased that they're giving Vi so much to do. She was in every single episode this week, and she's a good character when they give her stuff. She's Gwen Taylor's the sort of actress that you could throw into any scene and she will make it work because she is that capable. She's great. So I'm just glad that they've finally stopped wasting her potential of just literally having Vi sitting in the back of a scene making a sort of caustic remark and then leaving again. Just a sort of stereotype her into that sort of grouchy old person that we want to laugh at. It's kind of like, yeah, we've done that. Great. Now give her a reason to be there. And this is finally starting to look as though they're actually giving her a bit of purpose at last. What do you think this is going? Do you think that we're going to meet Christopher fairly soon? Is she going to start looking for him? Because it seems like she's starting to feel guilty. She had this conversation with Honey this week, who was back with Janet, and sorting about how Janet sort of copes and I think realised that, people with Down syndrome can lead perfectly normal lives if they're given the right, with the right care, and that she could have coped. And she's starting to feel guilty about giving this kid up. So are we going to meet Christopher in the coming weeks, do you think?
I certainly think that Christopher will be introduced in the show, and I think that'd be great. I'd really enjoy that. The way that Vi was talking, it sounded like she's made no contact with Christopher whatsoever, so she doesn't know how Christopher has grown up himself. So I think he was, when Vi kind of, and it was almost like Vi had just met Janet for the first time this week, which I thought was a bit strange. Surely they kind of met in passing in the past, She was impressed that Janet was able to lead a life where she could be a model, an international model, come back from America with no tan whatsoever, pale white, Same. The fact that I know I would be the same too. I either burn or I just go
burn to a crisp or
holiday. I never go brown. No. My olive skin was never developed at a young age. But the thing with me about Vi is that, yes, I did enjoy the story. I did enjoy that they had Patrick involved too, which needed. I love Patrick as well as a character. But Vi still felt like that kind of angry older woman throughout the scenes. And I didn't like that very much. She felt really still felt very guarded against the kind of stuff that she was sharing with Patrick. Like she shared only enough. And then when Patrick came back a little bit later to speak to him, she kind of wanted to make an excuse that she wasn't there. And I get that that's Vi's character, but I kind of didn't want that to be Vi's character this week. I wanted Vi to kind of be softened a little bit and kind of want to embrace Patrick as a friend and have him as the person she shared the secret with. And the fact that she was still at arm's length with a character that potentially she could maybe make a bond with, I felt was a bit of a shame. Not that I disliked the story. I liked the story. I just thought it was a bit of a shame that they kind of kept Vi as the Vi that we've seen leading up to this point. And I'd like to have seen her just have a bit of a shift change.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. See, I took that as... that made sense to me that she was like that, because this is a secret that she's now kept for 30 plus years. So she's not used to people finding out about it. And I think she almost feels as though Patrick finding out about it is a little bit kind of risky. So as soon as she makes Patrick forget about it, then she can deal with it on her own. She isn't the sort of person that this is a woman in her 80s who sits and watches... in her leisure, sits and watches people getting scalped and stuff on horror movies. This is the sort of person we're dealing with. She's as bad as you. This is what you are going to be Vi. Alex loves horror films, he was telling me, all right? He absolutely loves horror films and loves gory stuff and So this is going to be you in... about 10 years' time. It's, you're going to turn
10 minutes.
10 minutes' time. By the end of this podcast, you will be Vi. It kind of made sense to me that she's never come across as somebody who is particularly good at sharing emotions. You know, what I'm loving with Vi at the minute is the relationship that she's got with Rainey. That's really developing into something nice to watch. You know, that scene where they were in the cafe.
Yeah.
Was it even this week or last week? I can't remember. But that was a lovely scene where the two of them are sort of talking, and you know, she's realising that she's got somewhere to live with Stuart and Rainey, and the fact that she keeps calling her Lorraine. You know, I love all that. It's just the little character things that I'm quite enjoying. But I mean, I get what you mean, but I think that it was sort of consistent with her character, and I think the thing with her and Patrick will sort of start to soften probably next week. You know, it's going to be one of those sort of things that once she's realised that she can trust Patrick with this secret that she's had for so long. I mean, just think about it though. You've had a secret for decades, and someone's found out about it. Would you treat that person, especially a secret that you're really ashamed by, would you treat that person immediately as somebody that you would enjoy talking to and offloading to, or would you treat them a little bit guarded? Would you not? Would you not sort of look at them as so they could almost use that secret as a weapon towards you? I know Patrick isn't the sort of person to do that, but would that not be sort of, you'd be in defensive mode, wouldn't you?
Using the relationship she has with Rainey, like she has kind of let her guard down with her, so I kind of expected it with a bit more with Patrick. And I know I do know what you're saying. When you have a secret for 30 years and it's going to be consuming you for so long, and you've kept it a secret, basically with this photograph in this book, the moment when Kim had the book, she was so desperate. You could see the desperation. She was willing to give anything to get that book back, knowing that the photograph was inside. I would have just thought that it would have been complete and utter, like a release for her. No?
No, I agree. In some ways, but bringing up the Kim scene, now, this will be a line that people either love or hate. I absolutely loved it. I thought, you know the line where she turned around to Kim and went, if a fox crosses a highway, they're going to be roadkill. I loved that. That was one of those lines where, I've written a few books, you know, and there are now and again, you'll write something, you'll write a little line where you kind of like, you press enter and then you light a cigarette because you're like, I'm a genius. And I can imagine the writer of that episode doing that when they came up with that line. It's like, I am a genius. I'm wasted on EastEnders. Look at this look at this art that I'm doing here. It was brilliant. When a fox crosses a highway, you're going to end up as a roadkill. Oh, I bet it was. You would light a cigarette and then just go and genius. I do get what you mean. I think we're going to get that in the coming weeks. I think she is going to soften. I think maybe what it is that I'm just so relieved that she's finally got a storyline and that she's actually there doing something now. Something that isn't just sort of caustic old woman sitting in the corner. Which, you know, sometimes making comments that weren't even that funny, you know, just sort of like, almost like a sort of in the way type of person. You know, like when you've got a game of tennis going on, one of the ball boys doesn't tend to come along and start whacking the ball around between whilst the ball's going around in midair, do you? Which I think was what Vi was kind of turning into in later scenes. Does that make sense, that analogy? This is why I don't make sports references. Yeah, I do. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just blind to the fact that I'm glad that they're giving her Gwen Taylor something to do, and Gwen Taylor can do her thing, because I'm a big fan of Gwen Taylor, and I'm glad that they're actually giving her something to do. So I think in the coming weeks, watch her. Vi will be where you want her to be, I think, personally.
Hope so. I hope so. I really do. Like I say, I like that there's this Vi story. I like Gwen Taylor. I'm happy to go ahead. Perhaps it's just like you say, it's just the beginning for her then to kind of drift into this character, this new Vi that we may see when she's more involved with the stories around her. We can't go on this week without talking about, of course, the crossovers. Crossover weeks. We've had all the different crossovers happening this week, from Hollyoaks, from Doctors to Emmerdale to Coronation Street. I don't know if anyone's aware, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware if you're watching or listening to this podcast, but we did a crossover episode ourselves where we spoke with Michael and Gemma from Conversation Street. Yes. And we talked about all things Coronation Street, all things EastEnders, and kind of we talked about the industry as well a little bit. Well, more than a little bit. We talked about a lot, about what we thought, how soaps could kind of grow going forward. If you're listening to this, it's on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching this, right at the top of the screen right now, ping, you will now see there's a link. Now, obviously, finish watching this first, but then hunt down that link a little bit later on, and you can listen to the whole podcast.
Stick it in the show notes, Alex.
And I might pop it in the show notes as well.
The show notes.
But let's talk about our crossover then. So the EastEnders crossover, the one that we had was Bailey was boycotting Walford East because Peter more specifically refused to do a meat-free Monday to do any menu items which weren't meat. Everything was meat. Even the chips have got meat on them. It's like drizzled in meat fat. It's just everything,
Even the custard.
Even the vegetables.
Yeah, even the custard.
Yeah, even the custard. Everything's got meat. Yeah. Because Peter Beale is a buildy, muscly man and he needs protein. And the only way he can get protein is through meat. So he refused point blank to listen to Bailey's request to have vegan items on the menu. I mean, I wouldn't eat a Walford either. I think he was just doing a great job kind of endorsing it. No.
If we went to London and we were like, where should we go to eat, Alex? You'd have to look at the menu and say, we can't eat at Walford East. I'm a vegan. Not Walford East, can't go there. Can't go there at all. We're better off at McClunky's.
I'll go to Kathy's.
Yeah? She's got a vegan option.
Yeah. Yeah, she has. I'll pop off to Kathy's. Have an oat milk latte as well.
Oh, lovely.
So Bailey made a viral video with Tom, wasn't it? Tom was involved as well.
Yes.
And Mitch. And it went viral. It was so viral, in fact, it went all the way to Weatherfield. It went all the way to the Dales. It went to wherever Hollyoaks is filmed.
Chester.
Cheshire. And it just... Chester, not Cheshire.
Yeah.
Cheshire. Sorry, all Hollyoaks.
A bit different.
We enjoy a bit of Hollyoaks. We've had a chat about Hollyoaks in the past. We love a bit of it.
Yeah.
What did you think then? What did you think of this crossover in particular,
right.
And also about the crossover week? Do you think it was a bit of fun?
It was fun. It was nice to sort of have those moments where you sort of look and go, oh, I saw it's there from Corrie. Oh, it's Maria from Corrie. That was nice. I feel like they could have done more out of it. Rather than just little inserts. Because what that has actually done is made it seem like the soaps are all in one universe. We spoke about this on the crossover podcast where we were kind of like, well, that now means that in the world of EastEnders, Weatherfield is a real place. Which kind of puts that conversation of Dot 10 years ago when she was saying, oh, I never miss Coronation Street. Makes it all a little bit odd. I mean, fine, I'm not uber picking at that. That's absolutely fine. I just feel like they could have done a little bit more with it. It's all been done for the right reasons, and it's all very nice. I just feel like maybe something bigger could have been done, but maybe this is just the start of the soaps realising that they are quite the powerhouse. I don't know quite how the other soaps sort of inserted the other scenes from other soaps into theirs. I thought, to be honest, EastEnders dealt with it fairly well. I thought it all felt fairly natural. When EastEnders does those really random scenes where like there'll be a massive argument happening in one scene, and then they'll cut to a next scene where three completely unrelated characters will be talking about the cricket or something in the Suki mart or something. It didn't feel like that. It actually felt, the thing with Kim, for example, when she was looking at her laptop and sort of going, oh yeah, this is interesting. And then you zoom back and Patrick is busy engrossed within the Vi storyline because he's discovering the photos. We dealt with it quite well, I think. EastEnders did well with slotting it in. I don't know how the other soaps dealt with it. It could be interesting. I don't know, because obviously Bailey, like you say, is the one that went viral. I have to say, Peter is an appalling businessman. If he genuinely believes in this day and age that you can run a restaurant without having a vegan option, it's not a thing, is it? What is he thinking? Genuinely, even Ian would admit that a vegan option is necessary in this day and age. You've got to have your finger on the button for all this.
Oh.
For all this, vegetarian. It doesn't sound like they even have a vegetarian option. Never mind a vegan option. It's literally just meat.
That's what I mean.
It's as bad as Nando's.
Everything is just doused in meat.
Yeah, honestly.
Spotted dick with meat. It's just like all kind of stuff. He had everything and anything. But Tom saw the potential here, didn't he? Tom saw the potential of getting meat off the menu and having a meat-free Monday, and convinced Peter, also with a little bit of persuasion from Kathy, to get into his new vegan business venture. I mean, again, it seems to have come out of nowhere, considering it was business, his housing when he first came into the soap, wasn't he?
Tom, yeah.
I don't know.
God knows.
But he's got this new vegan venture, and he does get the money off Peter, £20,000. He tells Dotty, because Dotty's been pushing him all week as well, to sort out getting the money for her mum, because she wants to get her the medical attention that her mum badly needs. But £20,000 isn't enough. In private healthcare in the UK today, it's not enough. Sonia Earwigs overhears all of this and says, oh, don't worry about it. I've got Dot's money, over £1 million. I'll just write you out a cheque tomorrow. Don't you worry about it.
Pointless.
Almost immediately erasing,
What's the point?
4 months worth of stories.
What was the point?
What was the point of all this? I mean,
Dotty's literally...
This could all have...
You can even read that on Dotty's face. She's kind of looking at her like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of just asking you for money. Yeah.
Maybe I should have done that first.
No, before I sort of brought this guy in to pretend to be your father, I could have asked you for the money. I didn't think of that. Wow. Well, I've learned a lesson today.
Yes. The more we know.
Honestly, hindsight is a bitch, eh? Honestly, what?
It really is. It really is. I mean, even Tom had his jaw to the ground when it happened. He was like,
Did you not did you not just ask her before you brought me into this? Did you not think to ask her? What?
Sonia and I could have been friends.
Yeah.
I could have just met her on the street. We could be best friends by now. Yeah. But now you've ruined it. Now you've ruined it all.
Must now got to still pretend to be her dad.
Dear. Oh dear, honestly. Oh dear, oh dear.
So what happens now then?
I mean, what happens then with...
I know, what happens now?
Well,
because now Dotty's got access to the money and all the money that she wants. I've never really understood the fact that Sonia has been keeping this money from Dotty in the first place, because essentially the way that it's been said and the way that Sonia has been acting is though she is sole beneficiary to all of Dot's money, and it is up to her purely when this money is handed out. When Dotty has proved herself, you must go through 3 tests, and when you have passed these 3 tests, then you may gain access to your money, like Squid Games. Like, what? Yeah, like, I know. I mean, that would be an interesting twist to take it down. I'm ready for that. So yeah, what?
I mean, I'm up for it for Children in Need special. I've said this already. If they did a Squid Game style episode for the Children in Need special,
yeah, who would be the front man?
Whether it would be appropriate, I'm not sure. Who would be the front man? Mick, probably. Mick Carter, wouldn't he be the front man? Probably.
Although I'd quite like it to be someone like Sharon. Yeah. You know, she takes the thing off, and then not only does she take the mask off, but you pan down. You haven't seen the full outfit in shot for the entire time. You pan down after she take the mask off, and there's a pair of white trainers just sticking out the bottom when the front ones had to run around.
Yeah, that could be the clue.
Anyway, so now Dotty's got access to all the money that she wants. So I'm genuinely at a loss now as to where this story goes, because there's no. I mean, what do you think? What happens now? I'm confused. It's almost like they've just stopped it and thought, no, I don't understand what's going to happen now.
And when it's almost like they kind of want to keep Tom on the soap now.
Almost,
and they've seen that Brian Connolly's done a bit better, or maybe more than they thought could have happened. And the short term story has now become maybe a little bit more of a longer term story. The Stuart effect,
easy.
if you will.
I'm just asking for the money.
So it's I know. It's just so. Like when the scene happened, and Sonia literally was like, "Oh yeah, okay, of course you can have the money, Dot." I was like. So I'm just guessing that they're going to somehow tidy up the whole Tom lying to Sonia story.
Or some problem is going to occur.
They're just going to be a complete unit.
Or Sonia's going to change her mind. Or
getting them.
Or Sonia's not going to give her enough money. Or something. I don't know. Something like that must surely. She's not. There's going to be something where Sonia doesn't fully comply with what Dotty wants. Surely. Because otherwise...
But also, if Tom has conned Peter into giving them money for a business that maybe doesn't exist, is that what Tom's plan was? There is no meat-free business? What's going to happen with that? What's the repercussions of that now? Because they've now got the money from Sonia.
I'm assuming there's a detail that we must be missing. So there must be a detail that we're missing. A vital detail of this that we're not seeing.
Comment below.
And please let us know, because right now it seems that we've literally just reached a point where the moral of this story is Dotty should have asked Sonia for the money.
We've reached a dead end in this maze of the whole
Clearly we're missing something. We must be doing. They can't have written themselves into a corner that hard, surely. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see next week. And then next week we'll go, well, aren't we silly gooses?
We'll see.
Aren't we silly gooses? We didn't see we didn't see that vital detail. But right now it's a bit confusing. We'll see.
We'll see. Oh well. Do you know what? We had a surprise this week.
Didn't we just?
Yes, it was Sean returning to the Slater house, only for one episode, because apparently the actor flew in from America to do something.
I'm in London for the
and
day.
then flew back out again. But yeah, like we said on Twitter, it's like he turned up with a bottle of milk, like with a bowl.
Do you need me? Can I help? I used to do that when I was 16 years old. I used to work at Home Bargains, and I used to come home from college. I used to finish college and be like, "Oh, I need some money for going out this weekend." So I used to go in to the shop that I used to work in and go, "Don't suppose you need any hours today, do you? I can do you a shift." They'd be like, "Yeah, actually, do you want to work till 4? Yeah, perfect. Yeah." So I just get on a till or something and just do my job. Literally, what happened with Sean Slater this week? Like he just turned up and just filmed a scene, and it didn't feel that unnatural either. To be honest, I was watching
No,
it kind of
it
like,
didn't.
after he didn't. It
worked
was all right,
really
wasn't
well.
it? And it was kind of, but the thing is, like, if he hadn't have said that, how would they have got rid of Eve? So actually, it sort of worked, didn't it? Because how would they have got rid of Eve?
Planned.
Otherwise?
When I say like he came in, I think it was
we're being
plan.
flippant.
There was a plan there, one way or another. We are. But yeah, they essentially got rid of Eve, didn't he? Through with Jean requesting it from him,
yes,
because she thought that if she brings in the heavies, then Eve may listen, because she still doesn't trust Eve after this week. Eve did help them out with their problem with Suki.
Yes, as well. Yeah, because Shirley turned around to Jean and said, "You're the woman that got rid of Ruby Allen." She's like, "Yeah, I am. Yeah." And so Sean then Jean essentially turns into Peggy for a week and rings her son up to get rid of this woman. And Sean just arrives on the train and persuades Eve that she's a really, really bad influence on Stacey and that nothing but disaster will befall anybody that she touches. And then Eve leaves. Stacey comes home, sees Sean. "Why are you here?" I just got rid of Eve for you. See you later. And then just walks out the door. It's kind of, I mean, it was nice to see him though, wasn't it? It was a genuine gasp moment when he sort of appeared in the corridor, which I love. I love it when the show does that. It doesn't happen often enough. Those sorts of big, oh my god moments. So it was nice, yeah. I mean, Eve, we will see her back, I'm presuming, because she was a ridiculously interesting character right from the off. I love the fact that she's a solicitor. I love the fact that she's a lesbian solicitor, because that, in my mind, is starting a potential thing between her and Richie, who is also a gay solicitor / lawyer.
I
want that to happen.
Come on.
I want
Are you going to start a hashtag?
Eve. Yes. But I was trying to work out what name I'd use. Reeve. Yeah, that's a lovely name. Yeah, Reeve. Hashtag Reeve.
Itchy.
It's the Itchy and Evie show. Yeah, no, I imagine that. That'd be great. If Evie comes back and realises, right, actually, I can start a life in Walford, and starts trying to become a solicitor again, and then she starts taking, because Eve's not the sort of person that would, do everything by the book, is she? Clearly, so she wouldn't, and neither's Richie. So I'd love to see the pair of them go at loggerheads together.
Hence why she ended up. No, hence why she ended up in prison, because she didn't do anything by the book.
Yeah,
which
well,
is
we
why
know
Sean
how
kind of convinced her to leave, because she said you're a bit flouty, so it's probably best if you don't kind of encourage your attitude towards Stacey as well, because Stacey, all it takes is Stacey's very easily influenced.
But this is the thing. You've got to bear in mind also how easy it is for look at Callum, how quickly he became a copper. Jack, he became a copper again quite quickly. It's very easy for you to get to the career that you want to. If you really put in not a lot of work in Walford, you'll get there very quickly in the end. So I don't doubt at all that it'll be very easy for Evie to start becoming a solicitor again. Because once Gray's dead, we need legal representation on the square that will go around the square quite happily, representing everybody that ends up in court at some point. So, but yeah, no, I love Evie. I can't wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's it. Is Evie going to work for the Mitchells? Do you think is there potential there for because Evie and Phil must have met at some point, because Phil is bubbling around the Slater house. We got a reference this week saying that he was in the shower. I mean, we don't see him.
He's in Portugal now.
We just know he's in the walls. No,
they said
he's not.
No, he did.
They said he was in the shower.
Yeah, they said he's going to Portugal after breakfast. Because if you remember, a few weeks ago, he said that he was taking Raymond to Portugal.
Yeah, but he must have met Evie then.
I mean, I'd assume so. But then Phil's involvement in the Slater house as the house fire has been absolutely zero. We haven't had a conversation. We didn't talk about what even happens with the Mitchell house at the minute. We haven't spoken about the fact that he was living with Janine for a short amount of time when she was the one that set fire to his house in the first place. None of that. Absolutely none of that whatsoever. So the fact that her and Evie met, no, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. So there's a blank sheet there for them. Then they could maybe do something a bit later with them.
But then there was also
as you say, with Gray going, there's a potential there for maybe a new solicitor slot, because Richie doesn't tend to be around much anymore. So
no, but then there's also the theory of, does she know Gray? There's a few people wondering whether Evie and Gray have ever crossed paths. Yeah. She might have done.
I wondered that too, because Stacey is looking, because she got entailed Martin in as well to look for Evie. Eve. Eve.
It's a different queen.
Evie, Pokemon.
Yeah.
She. So it's. Yeah. So she must be. I'm sure she is coming back at some point. And I wondered about that thing with Gray. I wonder if she will kind of, because she might know. Well, she could know anyone in the whole potential solicitor world. I'm sure they all know one another, don't they?
Yeah, it's like there's one big bar where all solicitors go and get drunk. Yeah. So, yeah, well, I mean, I can't wait for Evie to come back. It's basically the story of this. And yeah, it was really nice to see Sean again. And he said that he will kind of pop in and out as and when he can. You know, he's not averse to just popping in for a Saturday shoot and sort of leaving again. It sounds like he literally just kind of rang up and said, I'm in the UK, write me a scene and I'll come and film it. And then put the phone down and then just turned up and filmed the scene. So it's nice that they've kind of got that option with him that he can kind of come and go as he pleases. It's sort of, because Sean's a very popular character, so it sort of means that you can slot that popular character in and do these little surprise scenes every now and again, which is quite nice. I would like more of those sorts of things. I like it when I'm shocked and my gob hits the floor. It's like, oh my god, it's Sean! Loved it, absolutely loved it. I really liked that. So surprises are good, Alex. We like surprises, so let's hope we get some more in the coming months.
Yeah, as someone said on our Twitter, someone tagged us and said that I had only mentioned that EastEnders is lacking that moments recently, and as soon as I said it, one pops up. So there you go. Story of my life. Final story then we're going to talk about this week is Mick returning to the square mid-fight between Frankie and Nancy. They're not getting along very well at all, and it kind of led to a really uncomfortable moment for me between Frankie and Nancy, where Nancy did something quite cruel to Frankie. And I'm not talking about putting the banana up her exhaust. I'm actually talking about her pushing her into the boot, locking her in there, and keeping her in there for what seemingly was quite a long time. I mean, does that feel not very Nancy to you? That felt like a real turn and change to that character, and I didn't like it anyway. But for it to be Nancy who carried it out as well, despite it being her sister or not, and I get that they're not getting along, and I get that like Frankie's kind of just been introduced to this family, and she's feeling and Nancy's feeling a little bit like the odd one out, and Mick tends to defend Frankie over Nancy. Yeah, but it just felt like a really mean and nasty thing to do, and a bit out of sorts.
I mean, I know what you mean. I mean, for me, I sort of kind of looking at Nancy now, and sort of I'm seeing that Mick is giving no indication that she is in the right here, in terms of the fact that Frankie and Zack nearly killed her. This is the thing. Nearly killed her and then drove away. And the only reason... And Frankie at no point was going to come forward and... As far as Nancy sees, Frankie at no point was going to come forward and admit the truth. And she is in a strange position where she's kind of... Mick genuinely told her this week that she needs to get over it. You need to get over the fact that your sister nearly killed you and didn't want to do the right thing. I can see why she's angry, in all honesty. That really makes sense. My issue with Nancy this week was when they were having an argument, and then she ran outside to Frankie and said, "Don't pretend you can't hear me," with no irony whatsoever. Just pretend. No. Stupid line. Like, there wasn't even a scene. There wasn't even a kind of Frankie kind of giving her a look like, really. None of that. It was said with absolutely no irony, no tongue-in-cheekness whatsoever. Don't pretend you can't hear me to a deaf person. Genius. I mean, the thing is, I don't think Nancy really thought that Frankie was going to get driven off by a mad Grand Theft Auto type person, which is how it ended up. I'm pretty sure she just assumed that what would happen is she'd put Frankie in the boot, and the longer that she was in the boot, the funnier it would be to her. But nothing other than that bad would happen. And the fact that Frankie was hammering away at the door saying, let me out, let me out, let me out, in the middle of a square that is bustling and busy all day. Yeah. It went from daylight to night, in the time that it took Liam to drive away in the car. It was all very silly. But either way, Frankie is currently now...
Also for Liam to...
Well, yeah. Well, she dropped the keys, didn't she? In the little tussle that Frankie and Nancy had.
She dropped them on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think that people would have seen the keys on the floor too, like before Liam had seen them.
Anything, yeah.
So it just felt... I mean, that just plot points aside, that was a bit silly too. You're quite right about that. But I just think that surely Nancy would have kind of considered after an hour, maybe that's long enough now. That's the joke's kind of given up. Yeah. It's been at least half a day. Perhaps she might be hungry. Maybe I should make her some beans on toast. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just felt it didn't feel very Nancy-like to me, because Nancy's one of those people who does react on gut reaction, but then after thinking about it would be quite remorseful about doing it. And I'd be interested to know, like, when next week when they find out that Frankie's been kidnapped essentially by Liam in the car, how Nancy reacts to that, whether Nancy's a bit like, oh well, she left me for dead.
I think that's what it's going to be.
Or
Yeah.
whether she'll suddenly. Do you think that? Because that would be even worse. I'd hate that to be Nancy.
No, this is the thing, though. I can't say I blame Nancy's behaviour, response.
Really?
Not to the point where she's throwing her in the car. But what I mean is, I can't blame her for being this angry about it. If you have been hit by a car, right, left for dead on the road by your sister,
Right.
and then you've got your dad turning around to her and say you need to get over it. How it's not, if anything, I think this is out of character for Mick. Because Mick is literally saying to her, yeah, you nearly died. You're in Walford, mate. Get over it. This is what happens to everybody at some point in their Walford lives, you know? To me, that it feels really unfair on Nancy. I get that she didn't do something great to Frankie. I understand that. And I understand, actually, that Frankie has sort of been trying to sort of, make friends with Nancy.
Yeah.
But I can sort of see it from Nancy's perspective. I sort of feel like she's being treated a bit unfairly herself. She's being told that the fact that she nearly died doesn't really matter. Well, you didn't die, did you? It's essentially what's being said to her. So I can I don't know. When Frankie does eventually return from this mad little escapade that she's now found herself in, with Liam driving around the square like an absolute nutter. Driving around the square as though he was actually trying to escape from police. I don't know what the hell he thought he was doing. He was trying to subtly steal a car whilst they were dealing
escaping from the police.
No, he wasn't. The police.
He didn't steal it though. He didn't steal it. The police saw him have a pair of keys in his hand and start up a car.
My car.
But borrowed, semantics, he's borrowed the car. Yeah. But to sell later on. But you know what I mean? It's like he had no reason to kind of like run away in such a manic way.
But drove away like he was in Grand Theft Auto.
Silly.
It was like watching Simpsons Hit and Run.
I know.
You know that video game that we... It was ridiculous. They had all sorts of mad camera angles, from underneath the car, from the dashboard.
The steering wheel was there on him.
Really
that's
intense.
All you could see is he's so small. That's all you could see him kind of driving like that. It's what? Really? But it was obviously done for the point of making the duff. So they made that kind of frantic him driving away. But in real life, if Liam had half a brain cell in his mind, all he needed to do was just kind of drive carefully out the square. And I know it wouldn't have made much of an interesting story, but it would have made more sense.
The other thing I wanted to say was there may well be a little bit of a frisson, shall we say, developing between Janine and Mick. Did you notice Janine sort of had her eye on Mick this week, when he returned? And so, because I was half expecting Mick to sort of go, why are you here? Get out, I don't need you here. But instead, Janine has been made bar manager of the Vic. And she clearly has a bit of an eye on Mick. Not in the slightest bit interested about the fact that he's married, because why would Janine worry about something as small as that? I don't think Mick's gonna act on this whatsoever. I think this is gonna be very one-sided, because for Mick to have another affair would be ridiculous. But I can understand why Janine would want to go there, because he is manager of the Vic, and Janine likes a businessman, and Janine likes the Vic. So, what do you think Janine's latest plan is? Because now Janine's kind of plotting everywhere now, as we knew she would eventually. She's got a thing going on with the car lot, and she's now going to start kind of plotting in the direction of Mick and trying to give him advice about Nancy and Frankie. So, what do you think Janine's next move is?
I think you're right. I think she's kind of plotting almost to take over the Vic. So this is her next plan, and then maybe another thing later on, and then another thing later on. The thing is that Mick he's got his eye off the ball at the moment, as he said a few times, because he's missing his Nance, not missing his Nance, he's missing his Linda, and he's also got Ollie he's going to look after, and hasn't he grown up as well? He
has. I thought they'd recast him for a minute, but it's the same kid, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So Mick's mind is all over the place, and obviously with this Frankie and Nancy story as well, he's misguided his attention somewhere else as well now. So this is a real good opportunity for Janine. I think Janine has spotted it as a chance to kind of worm her way into maybe getting something that she wants. I mean, we've talked about it in the past before, and she's mentioned it a few times as well. She said Frank Butcher holds a lot of notoriety in the East End still, and a lot of power, and a lot of people remember the Vic for when it was looked after by the Butchers. So it wouldn't be out of place at all for Janine to kind of deliberately, get her foot in the door and try to find a way of getting the Vic for herself. Whether she has an affair with Mick, I mean,
I don't think she will.
I would hate that
I
to
think
happen.
she'll try it.
Well, no,
she'll try it.
But I think Mick will also stop it, like, from the beginning. I don't think Mick will let it go anywhere.
So do
don't you?
No, I don't think for a second that Mick will. I mean, fast forward to 6 months when they're having a mad, passionate, steamy affair, and we're kind of like, oh well, we were idiots. But no, I don't think that. I don't think that Mick would act on that whatsoever. I think the whole thing with him and Linda, they've both had their fingers burnt in the world of promiscuity too often now for them to try and do all that again. But yes, watch this space, I think, with Janine. I think she's now, her cogs are turning in her head and she's got plans. So I'm looking forward to seeing where Janine goes from here.
Right, so that is the week rounded up in Walford. And we're going to now hop on the bus over to Dots and have the section where we talk about the news of the week on I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So this week we have a couple of things to talk about. First of all, someone sent us a tweet asking us what our thoughts were for the Christmas and New Year stories. I think Rob and I have talked about it quite a lot on the podcast in the past. We also discussed it on Twitter with the user. I shall tell you the user's name as well. It's at Smithering Adam. So thank you so much for your tweet, by the way. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out a few comments that people replied to us on about what their thoughts were. So first of all, at AlexJ90681463, I sincerely hope that's not your PIN number, says, I reckon there will be lots of Stacey and Eve this Christmas as things take a dark turn. And I actually think that Gray and Chelsea will be a New Year's wedding because they said they were filming Christmas episodes only a month back. So I doubt they would still be filming Christmas now. How do you feel? I think that the wedding is going to be New Year. I really do think the wedding will be New Year. I think it would suit it. Yeah, I think that because for the last few years they've been making Christmas the kind of not so important story. If you felt and that New way Year's too, Day is the big, and they've made one. New Year's the more story. Yeah, and I think because they've still showing a bit of emphasis on the Grey storyline, they'll probably make that the New Year one. Not to detract what I think the Christmas one might be, though. I think the Christmas one will still be quite an epic watch while you're eating your turkey sandwiches.
Yes, I'm going to have right-wing extremism and pigs in blankets for my Christmas this year. I do. I think that the big thing this year is going to be the Monroes. They weren't in it this week, but I think that the Monroes are going to be the big storyline of Christmas. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, yeah, the other stuff going on with Christmas, I'm sure Janine will throw something into the pot before then. We've still got a good nearly 2 months to go before we officially arrive at Christmas. And we know in recent standards that they can cram a lot of story into 2 months. So we could have a brand new thing to be discussing by the time that arrives. But yeah, I do think that the big story of the year is going to be the Monroes. I think that I wonder how far Dana is going to make it into 2022. If she even hits the end of 2021, we shall see. But that's my prediction. Ooh. What do you think?
Very interesting. I agree with you. I think the Monroes are the Christmas story. It's interesting for me also that they've made the Monroes a relatively new family. Yeah. Potentially one of the biggest slots in the soap's scheduling. Yeah. I know they've got Bobby in there as well, and potentially you could have a few of the other Beales in there. And it's bound to involve the whole square if it is going to be some kind of right-wing attack on the mosque, which we believe it could be. So... yeah, it just feels it's an interesting decision that they've chosen a new family to be the main story, and I think that's a brave one, and I congratulate them for that because it kind of takes you out of the status quo. Because it would have been really easy just to do another Mitchell story for Christmas, exactly, or some kind of shenanigan. Which I think we are potentially in store for, by the way, according to, again, I won't say anything, but according to the photos that were leaked this week on the filming of EastEnders off the square. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that again very soon. There was a location. At Chatterbox 2018 on Twitter, and I think you'll like this one, Rob, says, the wedding at Christmas and the bomb thing at New Year. So he's saying the other way round. Rob
the bomb thing
might get something flying through the air, but I don't think it'll necessarily be a turkey. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm showing you the tweet right now, and he posted it with a picture of Bianca about to throw Christmas dinner, and Carol looking quite shocked in the background there. So yeah, Rob, you might get something coming or thrown in the air. But I would like it to be a turkey.
I want it to
even
be a
if it is
turkey.
the bomb story.
Even if they just throw it in as a little Easter egg just for us, I'd enjoy that a lot. I still love the idea that we had of the turkey being the reason that Dana dies, because the bomb sends it off as a projectile missile across the square and just decapitates her. I enjoy that idea. Yes, I think that people are really starting to kind of notice the traction with the bomb thing now. I mean, we don't even know if it's going to be a bomb. It's these things happen, don't they?
No, we don't.
We don't know anything for sure. These things happen. I think what the papers sometimes do is pick up on little things that people have said online and then turn them into an actual story. So we could be completely off the key, and the people that work on EastEnders are watching this going, "What are you on about? Nothing like that is going to happen. What are you talking about, you weirdos?" But it seems to be going in that direction. So we'll see where it goes. But apart from that, I don't know. Like I said, we've got a few little bits and pieces kind of that could possibly be turned into more, but we've got a lot of time left till Christmas. We've got about just under 50 days. 50 sleeps till Christmas, until you see me and Alex in our Santa hats. So keep the theories coming, people. Let's see who the most accurate person is as to what the Christmas Day episodes are going to entail. Now then, there is one last bit of news that we've had confirmed this week, you said. With the I'm a Celebrity is just around the corner. Now, you remember last year we had both Shane Ritchie and Jessica Plummer in The Castle, as it is, and The Castle is back this year. It seems that they have gone quite down the old soapy route, and they're putting the soaps at each, head to head, because we've got, if all reports are to be believed, we've got not only Danny Miller, who plays Aaron in Emmerdale, we've not only got Simon Gregson, who plays Steve McDonald in Coronation Street, but we also have the EastEnders royalty that is Adam Woodyard, who plays Ian Beale, obviously, going into The Castle. Now then, I actually think this is quite a big signing. That's quite, he's sort of like the Ken Barlow of London, isn't he? So for him to actually, for them to actually get him to go into the jungle, go into The Castle, I think that's quite exciting. I wonder what he's going to be like. Because, I mean, the risk is...
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was very surprised, because I thought he was busy doing a play. I thought he was doing something much more upmarket than eating kangaroo testicles. I thought... I think it's going to be very interesting, because the thing is, this is a reality show. Okay, so it's the reality editor's job to make the shows as interesting as they can. And they are no obligation. Maybe they're a little bit of obligation to sort of make the ITV soap people seem quite nice, but I don't think they're that much obligation to sort of make the BBC soap person look that great. So is it, you never know. You never know. People always come out of reality shows when they've not come across great and say, it's the editing. I was edited badly. So, could we get that? Or maybe Adam Woodyard is going to win. How well do you think he's going to do if he goes in there? I think by the time we're series 21 now of I'm a Celebrity, you know what you're getting yourself into with that show. So, what do you think? Yeah. How do you think he's going to do?
Of course. I mean, first of all, I just want to say that the fact they're doing it in Wales again this year and they're not going to Australia, I personally actually prefer the Welsh series. Maybe because it's new, maybe it's because they only done it once before, but I'm actually really excited to know that they're doing the Welsh series again. Because last year I felt like it was almost like a new show.
It did feel like a new show.
And it felt exciting again.
Yeah.
It felt it was like a refresh. So, I mean, for better for worse, for what COVID's done to this the worldwide population, at least they gave us I'm a Celebrity refresh. It's like, hooray for that. But yeah, exactly. Cloud. But no, I've got good hopes for Adam Woodyard. But when I heard it this morning, I was probably surprised. I thought he wouldn't really would. I'm surprised he's doing it. I'm really surprised he's doing it. Obviously, I think the payload must be a huge contributing factor of why he's doing it. I'm sure it will be released at some point who's getting paid what. I wouldn't be surprised. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Adam Woodyard is getting a 6-figure sum. Really? I genuinely would not be surprised to hear that.
Lucky him.
I really wouldn't.
Lucky him.
Because he's just such an interesting asset. He can talk about a history of EastEnders. He can talk about every single executive producer, including the ones we got recently. He can talk about all the different storylines. And do
you think we're going to see all that? Do you really think they're going to dedicate a section of I'm a Celebrity to the history of the executive producers of EastEnders on an ITV show?
But I think they will, especially what you were saying about ITV maybe playing for more of an ITV soap audience.
Oh, what, you think they're going to show him slagging off the show?
By the idea of Of course they will. Of course they will. And I think Adam Woodyatt will have a few choice words to say about the show. I really do. And I am for it. I am on board. I'm excited to see all that. I love it. I mean, we said off air when we were kind of discussing this before we started recording that you were quite excited at the idea that perhaps maybe this year's Celebrity might be a little bit more confrontational.
Well, they got Richard Madeley in there this year, haven't they?
Because it's... Well, yeah. And he's good at putting his foot in it. He's like... They call him the Alan Partridge, don't they? He's like a real life Alan Partridge.
Yes.
Whether he does it on purpose or not, he always seems to say the wrong thing. I mean, anyone outside of the UK might not know who Richard Madeley is, but Richard Madeley is basically more well known for hosting a daytime show in the 80s and the 90s with his wife Judy Finnegan, and more recently he's become quite famous for kind of saying quite
the wrong thing,
basically saying the wrong thing during an interviews. So I think he's more than likely going to do that, especially when he's got no kind of like filter. Yeah. So I think that might
got Judy kicking him under the table. Scott. Yes.
Be quiet, Richard. Be quiet.
Let us know, listeners and viewers, what do you think about the potential lineup for I'm a Celebrity this year? Are we going to have another King of the Jungle? Because obviously Charlie Brooks won I'm Celebrity a few years back, so she's the Queen of the Jungle. Is she going to be joined by the King of the Castle when Ian finally makes his return to Albert Square? Let us know in the comments section, or alternatively, you can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos, and you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. Please feel free to drop us a line at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or at alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We should be back same time next week, and until then,
bye from me.